r/rules horror. Posted by u/PrinceAsmo. I am a supernatural agent. These are my stories. Story 2, Arianna Hathaway. My name is Agent Blue, fake name for reasons I explain in my previous, and first, story, about Mr. Aligor. I am an agent working on supernatural/paranormal cases, half independent, and I work worldwide. My wide pool of strengths and abilities make me the perfect candidate to do this kind of job. Since I have no jobs at this point in time, I have enough free time to share another experience. Now this is a weird and twisted one. Around 4 months ago, I was doing a freelance operation. I signed a contract with a small company running security in peculiar locations. My signed contract was a 3-day assignment on the home of a deranged, bedridden madman named Arianna Hathaway. Around 60 years old, but he looks fucking 120 years old. I have found out why he looks that way by now, and you, the reader, will find out as well. He had no family, no children, no one left on his god-forsaken bloodline. He was all alone, living in fuck knows where in French woods. With 12, yes, 12, maids cleaning his house during day hours. I wasn't going solo in this operation, I had 2 men with me, Nathan and Jonathan. My job was to assist in their operation as an armed agent in case of emergency, as I had a great resume under the Special Forces as an assassin and combat agent, which was completely false. The organization I have a lifetime contract with forged this resume, although I do have plenty of combat experience under my belt. March 24, 2021. After a 9-hour drive in an armed security van, we arrived at the huge mansion located in Redacted, France. It was just as anyone would imagine. A big fucking house deep in the woods of a mountain in France, big enough to compensate for some rich fuck with issues. But believe me, he had no bitches in there. Far from that. The time was 5 p.m, he got out, we got our equipment with us, and we headed in. We were informed beforehand to bring cameras on tripods, and inflatable beds to sleep in. As well as plenty of food and water. My first thought was, why the fuck do we need our own beds and resources on a big fucking mansion? But that thought disappeared quickly. I had enough experience to know where this is going. 5:27 p.m. We knocked on the door, and an old woman greeted us. Well, to say she greeted us was a stretch. She was around 50 years old, with ash-gray hair. Fatigue as well as anxiety was written all over her face. She didn't even speak until she showed us to the living room. The place, I have to admit, was beautiful. Wooden floor tiles, pure white walls with carvings on the edges, beautifully made wooden furniture, a crystal chandelier hanging above us, and a big dark glass mirror. Wait. I took another look at the mirror. It was just a normal, old mirror. I was immediately on edge, as I felt the disgusting energy this place had. 3 nights huh? The day was Wednesday, and we had to leave Saturday before 10 a.m. The tired woman gave me a piece of paper, and then she stormed off. I looked at the paper, surprise surprise, a list of rules. But these had no pleasantries. A plain old paper with rules on it, no author's note, nothing. I then looked at my crewmates, and I spoke calmly. You both need to listen to me. These rules are not a joke. No matter how you feel, no matter what you read. As long as you listen to me, it will all go smoothly. Am I understood? To be honest, I had to use some intimidation on how I spoke to them. Manipulating aura around me is no hard task. Yes, Blue, they spoke in unison. Well then. Pull out a piece of paper each, and 1 pen. And start writing down everything exactly the way you hear it. No mistakes will be tolerated, and no mistakes will be unpunished. Thing is, you won't be punished by me. I start now. Rule 1, no thing and no one is to enter or leave the mansion after 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. Between these hours, keep all doors leading to the outside and all windows locked unless Arianna is inside the mansion. After 7 a.m., all rules in this paper cease to apply until the next 12-hour set, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Rule 2, no one is to sleep inside any bedroom except Arianna Hathaway. Should a guest be in the house, they are to sleep inside the living room, and not on any furniture or carpets. They are to sleep either on the wooden floor or any kind of bed brought by the guests themselves. Do not enter any bedroom with the notion of sleeping in it, you will never wake up. Do not go inside at all if possible, and try to ignore any temptation to enter the rooms. Rule 3, humans are unable to eat the food inside the mansion. It is poison to humans. Same goes with water or any beverage inside the mansion. Rule 4, do not, under any circumstances, enter the master bedroom. Jonathan started laughing and asked if this is a bedtime story. And I went a bit too hostile. A bedtime story that they'll probably chant to your parents after they lower your casket 6 feet underground. Jonathan's face went pale and stiff. He started sweating and started writing down everything that came from the paper with the rules. Rule 5, do not attempt to move any furniture. If you do, return it to its original position as soon as possible. Do it more than 3 times, and the carpenter will wake up and roam the halls. This resets after 7 a.m. Rule 5a, if the carpenter wakes up, never confront him. Change paths, corridors and rooms when he is near. If he catches you, you will also become furniture decorating this house. He will sleep again at 7 a.m. sharp. Rule 6, if you hear the chandelier in the living room shaking, run to the kitchen and lock yourself in. You are safe to return to the living room after 1 minute and 6 seconds. That's awfully specific, I thought to myself. Rule 7, bedroom 5 is to be monitored from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. Depending on what happens, one of the following applies. 7i, should the carpet move, lock the door and unlock it after 6 minutes. 7.2, should the windows open, you have 30 seconds to close them before the Vengeful One comes in. 7.2a, should he come in, you are to go to the kitchen and open the top drawer next to the fridge. Do not question the gun. Shoot him once in the head, he will disappear for the night. 7.3, should the blankets move, every living person in the house should go upstairs, stand in the hallway and start screaming on top of their lungs. Arianna would rather sleep immediately than hear screams again. 7.4, if at any point you notice the picture above the bed missing, you are to immediately find it. Search any room possible except the master bedroom and the basement. It will always be on a wall. If you find it, return it in the room, and politely apologize to it for the inconvenience. If you can't find it, it's either in the basement or the master bedroom. It cannot be in bedroom 5. If it is, burn it. Should that be the case, go inside the room and politely tell it that Iliaster will return the painting. Note, if you find the picture in any room after you failed to find it, burn it. Even if it is found again in bedroom 5. Rule 8, never enter the basement unless you are forced to do so by rule number 9. Rule 9, should you hear loud banging and scratching on the walls, go in the basement. Open all lights in the basement before you enter. You are to stay in the basement for 11 minutes and 6 seconds. What is up with those specific numbers? Wait. I stopped speaking for a bit. Nathan asked me if the rules were done, and I replied with no. I started calculating, and sure enough, 11 minutes and 6 seconds added up to 666 seconds total. It's kind of odd and corny to have a specific rule like this, but that wasn't my concern. My concern that was we were currently inside a den for demons. Iliaster had money and power, but he wasn't even known. He was alone, sick and dead looking at the age of 60 or something. He just was on borrowed time, he barely had any life force in him. All of it was fed to the demons. But why would he even start bargaining with evil, to the extent of feeding life force to them? I sighed, and continued. Rule 10, while in the basement, do not touch any walls. They are thinner and more frail than paper. Rule 11, if you hear chains being dragged on the floor, hide. Once hidden, make no sound until the hollow one is gone. Rule 12, if at any point you realize that everything is dead silent, take a moment to make sure. If you can't hear a single thing, not even your own body, then break the mirror in the living room and cut yourself with the glass with your eyes closed. When you open them, you will be on the bathroom floor, and you will be able to hear again. If you stab yourself and nothing happens, run as fast as you can to the master bedroom and enter it. You will find yourself entering the real mansion through the front door, and everything will be back to normal. Rule 13, bedrooms 1 to 4 are to be locked at 12 a.m. sharp and unlocked at 3 a.m. sharp. If you ever see a locked door open during these hours, call for the benevolence help by cutting your palm and letting your blood drip in front of the unlocked door. Return to the living room, and never check the unlocked room, no matter what you hear coming from inside it. You will find the door locked after 10 minutes. Rule 14, if anyone knocks on the door during 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., ignore it. If he persists, knock back on the door. If he still doesn't stop knocking, take the gun from the kitchen and shoot him through the door. Let him in. It's Master Iliaster. Always obey Master Iliaster when he says something. I went silent once more. I made clear that they should shoot Mr. Alistair if need there be. But I couldn't shake off that awkward feeling that something is wrong with these rules. At least, after Rule 14. Rule 15, Iliaster is home, let's join him in the master bedroom and rejoice in his ethereal majesty. What the fuck? Ethereal majesty? Who the fuck wrote this? At least the rules aren't properly written off, I can see what's being written. And there, was the final rule. Rule 16, if you ever see the master bedroom door open, end your life, or let the forgotten kill you. Trust me, you'd rather kill yourself be one with the forgotten. This was not good. Something very dark was going on here, and I wasn't solo. One thing I cannot bear, is losing men. And these men were no supernatural or paranormal fucking fighters. They were security men. They just patrolled malls and markets and buildings downtown. Not the demonic mansion of a lunatic. This was just supposed to be a high-value house-sitting job for some rich greasy fat fuck. I couldn't let them die. And I couldn't fight, because I had to kill them if they saw my power. I needed to somehow protect them. I needed to keep them safe through this ordeal. I couldn't bear to lose more comrades in arms, even if it's just a one-off job with them. We were still a crew. No demon would feed on my crew. That is why I was so hostile about the rules. That's why I was so serious. I might be alone in a life I have to hide, I might tell a life story completely fake to all mortals that may meet me, but these men had families. These men had wives and children, parents waiting. These men were expected back home, safe and sound, to bring food and gifts to their family. To hold up their children, laughing. These men did not deserve this. These men needed to live. That's what I wanted to succeed in. That's why I have this job. To keep innocent men, women and children safe from this fucked up mess I call the norm in my life. I got up and checked the clock. 6:45 p.m. I told my men to sit tight while I took care of locking up everything. I also set up the camera in bedroom 5. After everything was done, I headed down inside the living room. I sat down with Jonathan and Nathan, and we just started chatting about random things, like the political situation in their country, our thoughts on global warming and other random shit like that. The night was pretty uneventful, until 11:30 p.m. Nathan motioned us to keep quiet, and we all heard the sound of chains being dragged upstairs. My eyes went wide, and my face went pale. I closed every light source and told them to scatter in the living room. I hid behind the small couch, while Jonathan hid inside an empty closet. But Nathan did something stupid. He moved the big couch and hid behind it. My thought immediately went to the carpenter, but both of them did not realize what was wrong about it. I instructed both to not look at any creature we might encounter, lest they wanted to die by a mistake. I would close them too. That's what they believe. I took a good look at the hollow one. It was a rotting corpse, with chains tied to its neck, hands and legs. It had few patches of hair and random parts of its scalp, and its torso was cut open. Its mouth was agape, with an obviously broken jaw hanging from the rotting skin on its face. It had long, disgusting yellow/black nails on its hands and feet, and it had a piece of old, dirty cloth around its waist, hiding something I'd rather not see myself. But these weren't the important parts. Anyone could easily explain why it was called the Hollow One by looking at it. Its ripped open torso was empty. All organs were removed, and even the rib cage was broken in the front. You could faintly see its spine, deep in the emptiness that it had for an upper body. Its agape mouth was also hollow. Its teeth were removed and its tongue was ripped out. Eyes were also, obviously, removed. Both the men had their backs turned where they were hiding, and I was glad. They would react extremely bad, and they would have their cover blown. The most disgusting thing though, came when it started walking up the stairs. A guttural, disgusting sound came from the creature. When Jonathan started trembling, while Nathan closed his ears. But I could hear the creature loud and clear, through the left-behind soul that was inside the rotting corpse. "Free me," it said. With a sad, tired voice. A voice of a man who wanted salvation, freedom. But never got it. A man that eventually gave up on the concept of freedom, and kept asking for it out of sheer madness. I won't lie. This encounter raised some questions. This was not a demon. It was a tortured soul. Is this place not just a demon's party house? Well, time will tell us. Eventually, we couldn't hear it anymore and we left our hiding spots. Jonathan was almost crying, and Nathan had a blank look in his eyes. I gave him the light push. "Nathan." Rule 5. He didn't respond immediately, but the second time snapped him out. He panicked and fixed the furniture. I warned them that they should not move any furniture again. Under no circumstances. I checked the clock. 11:59 p.m. I immediately started running upstairs, because I needed to fulfill Rule 13, lock rooms 1 to 4. I barely managed to lock them before the clock struck 12:01 a.m. I went down to the living room, and regrouped with the men. We hung around, chatting or doing nothing. I was constantly looking at the feed to room 5, and I went there when necessary, and thankfully only 7. I went in effect around 5 times during the night. Aside from that, we only needed to follow Rule 14, where someone knocked on the door 8 fucking times, but he didn't stick around for more than 1 knock at a time. I also unlocked the doors to the bedrooms at 3 a.m. Morning then came. It was 7 a.m. and the men were already sleeping. I sighed, closed my eyes and slept as well. I woke up ahead of everyone. At 4 p.m., I woke them up, and we went outside to breathe some fresh air and eat some of our rations. The men were pretty laid back, but I wasn't. I was extremely tense, sincerely hoping that this night would be the same as the last one. Oh, how wrong I was. What a false hope. 4 hours flew by, and we were again in the same spot. 8 p.m. We didn't have a chance to relax like the previous day. It was 8:04 p.m. when I heard the chandelier shaking. I got up immediately and yelled to the men to move. Jonathan moved, but Nathan? He was staring at the chandelier. Like a hypnotized maniac, he stood up, and tried to reach it with his hand. He couldn't know, but I could feel it. I immediately dragged him out of the room with my strength, barely saving him from the pitch black fucking head that was hanging from the chandelier, looking at us with its red fucking eyes. Nathan snapped out, started screaming, and that caused Jonathan to look back as well. Now I got both of my men screaming their lungs out of fear for the demonic entity that got out of the chandelier to kill us. I practically tossed them in the kitchen and locked the door. I signaled them to shut up, and both of them held their mouths, shaking with teary eyes. I stood with my back on the door, sweating. I could feel the entity right behind the door, looming over it, waiting for the poor fools to leave the kitchen earlier than they should. But 66 seconds after the door was locked, I felt the entity disappear into nothing. I stood there for another 2 to 3 minutes, wondering what would happen if I was a split second late. If I didn't react fast enough, a man would die in my team. He would become food for a twisted entity. Come. The night is still young. I don't want you collapsing on me, I said calmly and opened the door. Both of them pulled their act together, calmed down, and we sat in the living room. The first thing they started talking about were their regrets, their mistakes, their passions. They finally loosened up again. I thought to myself, everything will be fine. Everything will be okay, we will make it out of here all safe and sound. I would return with them to their country. I would give them a handsome bonus for all they went through. A bonus enough to make them retire and never work at a job like this ever again. They did not deserve this. I slowly got lost in my train of thought in front of the camera stationed at bedroom 5. I was constantly looking at it, but at some point, in my happy train of thought I wasn't really looking. When I figured that I'm acting foolishly, I focused once more. That's when I realized something was wrong. Very much wrong. I didn't see the window in room 5 opening at any point. The window though, was already open.